All right. There you go. Them dandelions. All right. So this last chapter that we're going to get into is all about probability. All right. Now, I think some of us have some preconceived notions about probability, whether we like it or we don't like it. We think it's easy. We think it's hard. When you first think of probability, what's the first thing you think of? Dice. Okay. Fractions. Flipping a coin. All right. Say that again. Percent. Sure. Okay. So when we think about dice or we think about coins or we think about, sure, some people would relate it to gambling. Yeah, the number of possibilities that can take place. Okay. All of those statements, though, have to originally come from somewhere. And today we're going to start to talk about like what we call a sample or a study. How does that information get gathered? Most of what we originally think of are random samples, like the flipping of that coin or the rolling of that die, or whether it's pulling a name from a hat, or we talk about a marble from a bag. A lot of us, we kind of come up with those kind of thoughts. Those are all random samples. What's up? Okay. All right, we'll test your theory. Not this moment, but we will definitely test your theory to see if that holds. All right. Okay. So today we're going to look at some different ways that things can be sampled. And we're going to look at a couple of different studies. Your homework tonight is going to be broken into three parts. The first is going to be over this idea of how to classify a sample. Okay, there's actually 5 different ways a sample can be taken. Most of us, though, like to think about that random sample, but there are different ways we can do that. The second part of your homework is going to be broken into this idea of what it means to be biased or not. Do you know what the word bias means?
Like your opinion.
Um.
Oh,
Good. Okay. Good. Good. So your opinion kind of weighs into that result. What do you think, Evan? I don't. I don't follow. I'm not sure how that would relate into a bias statement. I'm not even sure that's an appropriate comment to be made. I don't know if I believe that. The third part of your homework is going to get into this idea of a study technique. There's 3 different ways that you can study information. And then lastly, we'll just end real quick with this, back to this bias idea or not, but on how you ask a question. All right, and how that plays into things. So we're going to first start, though, with these different types of sampling. There's a lot of different words up here. We're going to cover these first 5 in here right off the bat, actually. So the random, the systematic, the self-selected, the convenience, and the stratified. Those 5 are we're going to cover first. What's that? Oh, gotcha. No, so those 5 different types of sampling. All right, the 3 different types of studying methods are over here: the survey, the study, and the experiment, and then the idea of bias in between. So there are 5 different types here that we're going to talk about. I don't have a fun picture for the first one, but I think this is the one that most of us know. All right, each member has an equal likely chance of being selected. So whether it's the coin or the die or picking from a hat or a marble in a bag or whatever you want to use, when everybody's got a fair shake of getting a chance to win. All right. If I said right now I'm going to give one of you guys $100 in this room, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to point. Bless you, I think. Okay, so is that random? But I close my eyes. Why? I do have ownership of my finger, and I also know what else. I know where you're at. Okay. So even if I close my eyes and spin around, regardless of that or not, if I know that Trent's back there, right? If I hear and I heard where his voice was coming from, just because you close your eyes doesn't make it random, right? Now, this, though, is a fair way of doing things, what we call a systematic sample. We select based off of a pattern. So I'm going to give every third person in line $5. Or I'm going to ask every seventh person in line the same question. Doesn't matter who it is. When it gets to that person, they're up. So you can't like slow play it and slide around them or leave somebody out. You can't do that in a systematic sample. Okay, so that one keeps everything fair and random as long as you continue to use the same number every time. You can't say you're going to count every fifth and then all of a sudden switch it up because you see somebody in line, like, just kidding, let's go to every third. That's not going to cut it. Okay. Over here, a different type would be that you self-select. You choose to be a part of it. Okay. When I was in charge of running the prom here, which was like planning a wedding, which was not fun, right? I think like 5 years, 7 years, something like that. Way too long. What's that? Yeah, right. But I would often ask for people to join the prom committee. Let them make the decisions. Let them do the planning. That's self-selected. They chose to be a part of it. All right. Sometimes you might have to do that too. All right. Now, another option is what's called a convenience sample. You just go get you a group that's easy to survey. You guys right here would be a convenience sample. You're here, you're not going anywhere, you're easy to get information from. However, maybe not the most reliable. Like, for example, should we raise the price of a parking permit at Northwest High School? No. Why did you just do that? You don't drive. So, as a freshman being asked that question doesn't make as much sense. Should I ask a senior the same question? What's that? Well, they are here, but what? They have to buy it, so they're what? Right now, they're about to leave. Do they care? No. Sure, jack it up. Make it another $30, right? I don't care. I'm 2 weeks away from graduating. Go for it. Okay? So, sometimes just because it's easy doesn't make it a good sample. All right? Your lunch table. How many of you, regardless of COVID or not, would sit with the same group every day at lunch? We are forced to. You are this year. But if you were not forced to, how many of you would still sit at the same table? Heck, most of you would sit in the exact same seat every day and give somebody a really goofy look if they were sitting in your spot. Right? Like, I sit there. Why are you there? Get out of my seat. Right? Okay. But why do you sit with those same people? They're your friends, typically. And typically, you share the same interest. Typically, it's why you're usually friends with people. They share and like the same things you do. What's up? Yes. Throws everything out, doesn't it, for the day? Okay. So, yeah. Even though a convenience sample can be easy, it doesn't always make it a good sample to use. Now, a stratified sample, this one's a little bit more difficult. You got to split people by groups. So the easiest way to split people by groups is by grade level. That's an awfully easy way to make that do it. Nobody is a freshman and a sophomore. You might be a sophomore who's still a freshman, right? But you're not both at the same time. That's not really a thing. You are a freshman, you are a sophomore, a junior, a senior. Okay. Non-overlapping groups. We stay out of clubs and activities because people do more than one thing, right? So we don't want to survey somebody twice, get double the information. But then inside of there, we randomly pick people. So maybe we do a random sample, or maybe we do a systematic sample. We're not going to do self-selected or convenience because they're not random. Okay. But we kind of break groups down. So that's kind of what this definition is saying. All right, we divide them into groups, and then we randomly select from there. All right. So based off of those 5, I want you to read these 2 questions and see if you can identify what type of sample you're reading. Are you reading a random, systematic, a self-selected, a convenience, or a stratified. Doesn't matter, A or B. We can go with either order. Every fifth person walking out of a movie theater is asked to name their favorite type of movie.
That sounds like a systematic.
Systematic, I would agree. Okay. Now, that's okay. When we say they're walking out of the theater, if we stand outside of movie number 10 and it was like some Disney movie and we ask them, what's the problem with that?
We're already going to see a certain movie.
Right. How many of you have allergies? Like right now, this time of year, like it's terrible, right? So if I went to CVS and I stood in aisle 5 next to, the Zyrtec and, the Claritin or whatever, and I said, I'm just asking every fifth person that comes down this aisle if they have allergies or not. Like, I still completed the systematic sample, but I did it in a way that I guarantee I know what the answers are. You know what I mean? Like, that really throws things off, and that gets us into the idea of being biased or not, right? Like, yeah, right? Or like standing out inside of, the pet store, and, like, I'm just asking if you have an animal or not. Oh, you do? Huh, cool, right? Well, like, of course you did. Like, flickery. Yeah, right. So you gotta think about where you're doing things, and that really leads us into that next idea of being biased or not. All right. So what about this one? Mr. Peterson's going to survey his students in English class to gauge the student body's interest of forming a book club.
Absolutely.
So he's going to ask his kids.
Oh, convenient.
It's convenient, right? They're right there. Okay. Is it the answer that he wants? Maybe. Depends on what class he picks. Right? That also plays into certain things. So this one for sure would be deleted. Nice job. How about over? No, we can't find it. There it is. All right, so it is convenience. They are the kids inside of his class, which makes it a convenience. All right. A, B, C, or D. Oh my gosh. Your homework too is all words. It's terrible.
I can't read.
All right. Visitors to a website are asked to complete a questionnaire about their favorite aspects of the site and what could be done to improve it. So identify the sample, suggest the population from which it was selected, and explain your reason. So is it simple? So meaning it's random, systematic, self-selected, convenience, or stratified? Visitors to a website are asked to complete their favorite aspects about the site. What do you think?
I think C.
C? What make?
They're asked, like, doesn't seem like they're forced to.
Okay.
So, like, they can do it themselves if they want to.
Okay.
And it's just people who go on that website that see it.
Okay. So you think, and I would say the big piece inside of C here would be that it's self-selected, I think is what you're going after. You think it's A, sample, people who complete the questionnaire, people who surf the web, self-selected. Okay. Oh. Okay. Well, really, if you look up here, there's only two major samples. There's only two samples in here, whether it's self-selected or whether it's convenience. And I think you could make an argument both ways here. You think it's B? Okay. So people still, again, who complete the questionnaire, people who visit that website, that's an important piece. And then whether it's convenient or whether it's self-selected. Now, your book's answer would say that it's convenience. It's convenience on their part, for sure, because they don't have to do anything. They posted the survey, you answered it or you didn't. I would make the argument too, Mia, that it is self-selected because I think we've all gone to a website and we get a pop-up that comes on that screen and you're looking for that tiny little X on there to close that window. And don't you just hate it when you miss that thing by a fraction and it opens some new thing? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there you go. Or the fake one that's, embedded in there, right? And so I think you can make the argument either way. It for sure is convenient on their side of things, the person who's trying to generate that information, because they just put it out there and, whoever comes to the website, that's where the convenience piece comes into play. But I think then on the other side, if you're somebody that chose to do it, I think you could view it as self-selected as well.
I thought it was more C because we're talk about the
Yeah.
worst more than
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think you could make the argument either way. All right. Looking at these three, so we're going to ask the question of bias or not, meaning, are we soliciting this information in a fair manner, or are we skewing our information that we get? So the student council surveys the students in one homeroom class to decide the theme for homecoming. You good with that? You good with that? No, you're not good with that?
I think it's biased
Why?
because it's only one class, so it's not every.
I would at least somebody from everywhere, right? I would think the same thing. You're picking one class, okay? And I think that's unfair. What about this next one? You're going every 15th shopper at a clothing store is asked what they would most want for their birthday. Is that good? What do you think? Unbiased? Do you think it's fair? Okay. Evan, what do you think?
I think it's also unbiased.
What makes you feel that way?
I mean, I was thinking, yeah, like why would one person exit the store when you're walking back in?
Oh,
Like say, if someone does this calculation, is being asked to do, but it's
Mhm.
biased because say how would the people at the store working there would know he just want to go home.
you took that off a deep end right there.
I would agree with what those two said. I would say it's
You say it's unbiased as well?
yeah, because it's not because he doesn't say, oh, I'm switching it to every first.
True, true. They keep it the same every 15th. Kyle, you want to change your answer? Why?
Because it says that they shop at a club.
Yeah.
But you're only gonna want to go to clubs.
Okay. So if you're going to ask somebody what their opinion is when they're located there, like, oh, you're in the clothing store and they want to know what you most want for your birthday, it doesn't guarantee, but it sure leads in the direction of saying that that's probably going to be the force of their answer. Like, it's going to drive that response. So in this situation, I would say it probably is bias in that nature. Now, you want to ask somebody if they got allergies or not, and you want to stand out front of the grocery store next to the little girls selling the Girl Scout cookies. Like, you want to ask that question there, that's fine. You go down the particular aisle and you ask a question about that, now you're changing somebody's opinion. Okay, so you want to ask people about their favorite or what they most want for their birthday. You can't do it inside of a store where people are purchasing items. It just leads people to an answer. Now, is that one okay? You stand out in the front of the school and ask every 10th kid who comes through who they're going to vote for in the upcoming election. Is that fair?
Yeah. You might get slapped.
you might get some answers you don't like, but you're going to get a fair statement of what you see because you're allowing any answer and you're not doing it,
Actually, wouldn't that money conversation a little biased?
Why?
Because of the fact that like maybe where the school's located.
That surely could have something to play with it. Yeah, like what kind of?
Like maybe like compared to like Tesla or like some inner city school.
Sure. That's a fair statement. Your location could have something to do with that. Um, but that's really going to be then like regional wide. You know what I mean? And so that may get us, out of sorts. But as far as getting our information, I think it would be fair. It may be skewed based off of the fact that I live where I live, in what we would call a red state or a blue state, per se. So sure, a purple state, whatever that would be. Is that red and blue together? Red and blue makes purple. What's up?
Would it also
Thanks for your colors.
would it also be like your age,
Oh, sure. Your age could have a lot to do with that too. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you got to think about all those kind of things as you go. All right. What about this one? Bias or not, an electronics company uses a randomly selected group of employees' children to test a new product. Is that fair?
Nope.
That's kids.
It's unbiased.
Okay. So what's that mean? They work there.
The
All right.
children.
Somebody this morning said, let's assume that this is the Apple company and it's their employees' kids and they want to know what type of phone they most want when they get older? What are they most likely going to say?
Samsung.
Yeah, they're going to pick an Android, right? So it probably is biased, all right? So if it is, which one of these then is the right answer? A, B, C, or D? It's got to be B, right? It's got to be B. All right. So here is the other side of things. After you talk about ways you can sample, you got to also think about ways you can study information. You can do it in 3 ways. We can survey people. We can do what's called an observational study, or we can do an experiment. I often try to do the middle one, but it never works. An observational study says you're going to measure or observe without affecting. How many of you get nervous if I stand next to you while you're taking a test? Okay. So even though I'm not impacting your, like I'm not doing anything to you, my presence is causing a change, right? So that is not an observational study. If I'm impacting the result by just being near you. So even though I may want to walk around to see what you're doing, I often will not, because I don't want to make you feel like, and a lot of you guys, if I stand next to you while you're working out a problem, will immediately think what? Erase it, and because you're doing it wrong. He's still standing there watching me because what I did was wrong, right? So there you go. What's his name? Jerry. So if you're going to do an observational study, you must figure out a way to do it without impacting them. So how do you do that? Okay, so a camera, right? We've all seen the show where, you know, the guy's in the interrogation room, a guy or a girl, whatever, and there's the mirrored glass. Is that observing without affecting if you're behind the mirrored glass? Okay, so in theory or in thought, the answer would be yes, right? How many times though do we see that person like losing their marbles, screaming at the mirror, right? I know you're back there, I can see. Well, you really can't see them, but they believe that there's somebody there. It could be a wall with a mirror on it, right? The thought is that they're not supposed to know, but it surely is impacting their decision making or their response, maybe. Yeah, right. So you don't know, but nevertheless, you sure still feel like you're being observed. You could what? Stand next to everybody? So you're just affecting them all? Yeah. There you go. Yeah. And make somebody stand next to everybody. All right. So this is a big one. The experiment, the big piece in an experiment, you have to have 2 groups. You have to have some people who are given the change and some people that are not. So that's where we often hear that word placebo come into play, right? We're giving some of them a new experimental, maybe it's a new headache medication, and the other ones just get a fancy looking Tic Tac. All right. And they don't know which one is which. Yeah, I like those orange ones too. Those are good. All right. So looking at these 2, can we decide which of the 3 we're looking at? A survey, a study, or an experiment? So a retailer wants to evaluate the performance and customer service. They'll contact 1,000 people randomly and ask them to complete an evaluation form. You always get these at the end after you talk to somebody in customer service. If you could just stay on the line for a quick second for a brief survey. No, hang up, right? Okay. What is that? It's a survey, right? We even use the word survey. All right. Just a couple quick questions. No, thank you. What about this one? Researchers analyze the reactions of rats to a vitamin. What is it? An experiment? An observational study? One of you's right. It's definitely not a survey. You're tapping out because Richard's smarter than you. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Well, in this situation, guess what? You're right and he's wrong. What? Darn it! What? What is it in here that makes this an Okay, they are analyzing the reactions, but what are they not doing? What's needed in an experiment that's not here?
A control group.
You got to have 2 groups. You'd have to have some type of split, okay, in order for this. So half of the rats get a vitamin and the other half get a sugar cube. or whatever, you know what I mean, whatever it is, okay? But there's got to be two different things so that we can measure that against it. And we didn't have that. We're just simply giving them the vitamin and watching to see what happens. Right? Oh, well, they all died. All right. So mental note, too much vitamin, not good for body. All right. So you got to have two groups if you want to have an experiment. Researchers analyze the reactions of people to a new type of television screen. They're going to analyze the reactions of people to a new type of television screen. Is it a study or is it an experiment? Narrow it down there first. Is it a study or is it an experiment? It is. So you think it's a study?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do this. It definitely ain't one of those two, right? There's no two groups. So is it A or is it B? A. We want to observe without affecting. If we observe by affecting, that's not an observational study. All right. So it is observing without affecting. All right. Now, biased or unbiased questions. Meaning, does my question lead to a certain answer? How often do you exercise? Unbiased?
Unless they're standing outside of a gym.
Well, that's going to give me higher numbers, right? Is that a fair question to ask? How often do you exercise?
Yeah.
I think so. You might want to lie, right? And feel like you should say a higher number than you do, but that's on you, right? That's internally. You got to make that decision. How about this one? Do you like basketball? If so, do you prefer watching high school, college, or professional? Is that fair?
That's not very biased. I mean, depending.
It's biased.
That's
I think it's
That's pretty unbiased, depending on where you're at.
unbiased.
What do you think?
Oh, it's biased because like if you're at a, say a high school,
Sure, sure.
the basketball team just lets out and everyone's up.
Yeah.
You're exiting the building and you just take a survey there.
Okay. Now, this actually is biased for a particular reason. We haven't actually talked about it yet.
Would be biased because like if they're in high school, they're going to high school.
So it does have to do with the second part. The moment that you bring in more than one question to the answer, you're now kind of forcing, oh well, okay, yeah, I guess high school if I had to choose. You've now like forced them into that answer. I changed this one, the first one, into being a biased question by saying, how often do you exercise? And if so, do you like to go to the gym or do you stay at home or do you do this or do you do that? You're not forcing people to kind of go, oh, well, I guess I kind of go with that one.
I sleep.
You know what I mean? Like you're giving them a path to follow and you're kind of forcing an answer out of them. All right. If I just simply said, do you like basketball? You're simply going to say what? No or yes, right? But, well, which one? And now all of a sudden it goes from a yes or no to, well, I guess I kind of like college. You're leading people down a path. And when that takes place, you've impacted the question and now it becomes a bias. What about the last one? Should the school district offer college courses to qualified high school students for free?
Not as biased
Why?
because if you're not qualified for college, then you wouldn't care.
True. That is true.
Biased because they're asking high school. They didn't say that.
Well, it's just simply should the school district offer it. So it's not. We didn't say anything about who we asked. We could be asking people at the school. We could be asking people in the community. We could be asking them. We're just simply saying, should they offer free classes?
Probably biased because of like they have some people that weren't in high school that possibly wouldn't care. Or if maybe they had kids, they probably would care.
Okay, yeah. So now you're talking about like, well, am I getting something for free? Are you getting something for free? That could play into it. Am I asking multiple things though, like I was here?
No.
I'm not. And by that regard, it actually is considered to be unbiased.
You really just ask one thing, it's not biased.
Well, when we're not leading people down a path. Yeah. Now, you guys all make great claims though. Like, if you're somebody who's got kids that are in high school, hey man, should we offer free free courses, free college courses, what are they most likely going to say?
Yay.
Yes, right? If you're somebody who doesn't have any kids and already paid for school and they ask you that question, you're probably going to say no, right? Like, well, I didn't get it. Why should you get it? Right? But if we're looking at the betterment altogether, it's probably a fair question to be asked. All right, last one and we're done. A bat manufacturer wants to test out a new grip for their bat. They select 75 high school baseball players to try out one with the new grips, and they select another 75 to try out ones with the old grip. Is this experiment, two groups, biased or unbiased?
Unbiased.
Actually, no, it would be biased. Yeah, because they wouldn't be able to try the new one. Like for the people that have tried the old one, they wouldn't have tried the new one, so they wouldn't know which one they like better.
Okay, so all right, it's a fair statement.
Just talk really fast.
He did talk quick. You had to try to sort that one out.
Yeah, I was like, about
There is definitely something in here that says that this is biased.
Oh, baseball.
Baseball children.
Who put these guys into groups?
The baseball people.
The people who are testing the grips, right? So Jacob, you're on the baseball team, right? If Jacob can hit the ball, like he is a nice at bay or at the plate percentage, right? And he hits the ball when he gets up to bat. What group am I putting him in? Probably the one with the new grip. Why?
So you can hit it.
So he's going to hit it, right? I'm going to put him in that group. He's going to show that when he's in there with these new grips, look what happens, right? But Jacob's got a teammate. Man, the dude, the only way he can get on base is when he gets hit, right? I'm going to put him in that group of the old grip. And he's going to miss anyways. And what are we going to say? Well, you know why he didn't hit? Yeah, he's using the bad grip. Look at this guy. Put him in this group. Gave him the new grip. Look what he did. Hit the ball every time he was in there. When we allow they select the 75 that go in and they select the other ones as well, we've now altered how this is going to happen. Are there ways that we could have done it? Sure, we could have randomly selected and put them in there. We could have systematically chosen them. We can't convenience do it. That's easy, right? Oh, you mean these guys over here that are all varsity players? Oh, we'll put them in that group. Oh, these guys over here that have barely made the freshman team? Yep, we'll put them with the old ones. Oh, look what's going to happen. Okay? So when we choose how it's going to happen, how we group things, that can definitely impact the results. All right? Your homework tonight has 8 questions on it. The first ones are going to be about those sample groups. You're going to read the statement, you're going to say where it came from and why you know that. Then you're going to see 2 questions about whether things are biased or not. And then you're going to see 3 questions about the type of survey, whether it was, or the study, whether it was a survey, whether it was an observational study, or whether it was an experiment. All right?